All right. Sports. I did a basketball show earlier. I was watching football. Now I'm watching the end of the Lakers and Nuggets while I'm trying to do a football show.
Real quick, how's that game?
Lakers up 195 with 2 minutes left.
Oh
So
my gosh.
when my eyes go off the screen, that's what I'm looking at. And
All
the
right.
and the, and the football game that's on now isn't that bad either. So
Yeah, I'll give you updates on that one. I got that one covered.
right, how can we do this? Well, this is Sunday night special, week 2. Kyle Means here. We are RegalRadio.com, War Media, and I'm glad to have Ryan Bukovetsky with me, riding shotgun, our Bears writer, our NFL writer, and a producer of the That Davis Show, and co-host of That Davis Show with Ken Davis. So, yeah, just as I said last week, just doing this. We do this every week. We're gonna try to do this this hour. Just go over what happened on Sunday. The good and the bad and the ugly. Starting with the Bears, of course, and as there was a lot of good, bad, and ugly this week with the Bears again, but a second straight week where they just come out ahead. This should have been a lot easier than it was. They got off to a good start, which is key, and it was good to see after how badly they played in the first half against the Giants, how badly Mitch played in the first 3 quarters. They actually got off to a pretty quick start this time, but that second half was really, you could just throw that out, man. And they were on the verge of giving up this game today. So, I mean, Ryan, just give your thoughts first off, man, about what you thought today, about what happened. And, the Bears are 2-0. Tony Gill, being who he is, says they might as well be 0-2. But there's a big difference between 2-0 and 0-2. But at the same time, there are issues, and they're pretty well apparent.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give Tony this. They dropped that touchdown. So really 1-1. I think it's a little unfair to say 0-2. But still an ugly 2-0, 1-1, doesn't matter. Let's start with the good, though. How about Matt Nagy in this run game, at least?
Yeah.
Because he has shown, at least now through 2 weeks, a dedication to the run. The running backs look solid. And the offensive line, I thought, kind of got off to a slow start. Sometimes that happens, but I think in both games, they've shown a physicality that they never showed all of 2019. And eventually those runs were turning into gashes against that Giants defense. And that was rarely, if ever, the case in 2019 for the Bears. So I'm at least happy that there's a commitment to the run. And even though it wasn't ultra successful early on, they were able to get it going, and it was huge. I mean, imagine if they had no run game with what was happening in that game to begin with.
Yeah, it would have been tough. It would have been tough. And, to that degree, I still, though, I liked, especially in that first drive, I liked the pacing and the play call, and I think they didn't make Mitch force much in that first drive. And it was key. He looked pretty comfortable to me. He got some, he was throwing under guys or at guys for the most part. He didn't start to really throw over guys until later in the game when he was pressing. But what did you think about Mitch's performance in particular? I saw a tweet that said they detailed his quarterback ratings to each quarter, and you could see, like, the first 3 quarters, there was like 50s. Then he had hundreds over the next 3 quarters. So that's going from the fourth quarter of the Lions game through the first half of the Giants game. And then it just dipped right back down again into the double digits. you know. But what I think it was key. I think it was key that he got out to the quick start that he did. What did you think?
Yeah, I think with Mitch, he looked. Let me know if you disagree with this, but he looked really comfortable with the scripted plays when they came out.
Right. So you're
And
talking about like the first 15 plays, right?
right, he
Yeah.
looked. I thought probably his best football overall. And to be fair to Mitch, Anthony Miller dropped a huge touchdown pass early. I
Yeah.
mean, that was massive, and he put it
Yeah.
exactly where it needed to be. Uh, the thing though that I fear with Mitch, and we saw it rear its ugly head again, is the consistency issue. And I was listening to the radio to Bears post game, and I heard a caller say Rex when they met Mitch, and then they all kind of laughed all together because it's like, yeah, it's similar to that. Not the same with the turnovers that Rex Grossman would produce, but Rex would have these really good stretches and these really poor stretches, and it seems like Mitch kind of does that too. Uh, I think he's a little bit more comfortable overall so far this year. It's not getting it done, though. I mean, you got to play 4 quarters. And not that I thought it was going to happen, but I had flashes of Nick Foles again. Just like when you see this offense look rudderless like it is, I mean, I was saying, like, he hasn't done anything too terrible, but a good quarterback on this Bears team, I think this is a laugher by the fourth quarter. I don't think it's a close one at all. And if anything, we kind of know more about Mitch. He really likes tempo. He likes moving in the pocket or moving around and using his legs and trying to be a little bit creative, and especially get him to not think as much so he can just be more reactive. I would love to see them do more hurry up, more tempo, especially when it seems like he's throwing it. But Anthony Miller with a couple big drops, Allen Robinson, that was a freak play with James Bradbury where he kind of like rips it away from Allen Robinson, and just a freak of nature.
Yeah, he just made a play. Yeah.
And so if a few of those convert, maybe we're talking a little bit differently about Mitch today. So at least it doesn't seem like it's as much on him as we normally have to put, but still just not good enough.
What did you think about Mooney? I like the kid. I like that kid so far.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what can't you like about him? Like, they put Ted Ginn inactive today because they're so confident in this kid. So that's a great sign. And he's got speed. He uses his body well. The only thing, hold on to that football, young fella. I know you're trying to make plays out there, but almost lost a big fumble early in that game. And that could have been huge when you look at how close this was overall. But besides that, I mean, so far it's been A+, I think, with him. And, I hope that it seems like Mitch is getting more trust in him, and I hope that the coaching staff is, and hopefully he continues to learn. Maybe by mid-season, we're talking about a guy that could really explode in the playmaking category, because if there's anything I think this offense needs is a guy that can rip off 50, like, in a given drive. Like, it just seems like this offense is always trying to go 8 to 10 plays to try to get a touchdown. Can they get a big rip where it's like 50 yards, 60 yards, 40 yards, whatever? But Mitch is long today, 28, and I believe that was the David Montgomery touchdown. Maybe it was something else, but they need big chunks like that. And he seems like a prime candidate to help them in that area.
Oh boy, it looks like AD just hit a shot at the buzzer to beat Denver.
Wow.
Denver was up 103, 102. It looks like they're looking at it right now.
Oh my goodness. Do you have an early call with that referee eye?
I think he got it.
Oh man.
Well, they're replaying it. Yeah, he got it off. Oof. He got it well off. The Lakers just got this one. They gave up the lead. We were just talking a minute ago. They were up like 5, and all of a sudden they were down 103, 102, and now and Davis had to hit the shot.
Well, man. Well, Denver, we'll see what resiliency they got left.
Yeah. We were talking earlier on doing Running with War, and it was like we were sort of like they could play from behind, but this might be a killer right here, man, to lose this game.
Really quick, did anybody have Denver winning this series, or is everyone going Lakers?
No, 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 no. It was just if they were gonna get swept or lose. I said I said I gave out a scenario where I thought they could win two.
Okay.
And maybe it's a better maybe it may not look so bad after this game. If they won this game, they definitely could have be in position to win two. But I don't know. They gotta let's see how they rebound from this one. This is a tough one though, man. Davis just hit a three like a few minutes ago from basically the same spot that he hit this last one. And that was big. And then they let him do it again to win the game. Like he just got it over Jokic. His hand. Like when you see it later, man, it's gonna be crazy.
Good highlights to see.
Yeah, but get back to the Bears. I say sports. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get back to the Bears. And by the way, we should have Eric Edholm from Yahoo coming on in maybe about 10 minutes or so. So hopefully that happens. If y'all see this, you want to, regardless of our guests and everything, if you want to come on and say something, comment mostly and say something, talk about the games that you were interested in today, including the Bears, of course, or any other games, just feel free to let off some comments and got any questions, let us know. But the defense, I want to get to the defense. And there was an interesting thing they put up CBS today in the broadcast talking about how the Bears have, I think they let out 4 drives last year of plus 95 yards. And I think that was like tied for the most in the league or something like that. And, you just mentioned how they're eating up yards in a short way on offense. And the running game, it being better now, looking improved with Montgomery and the line play is great because you're eating up time, you're managing the ball. But I mean, if the defense is doing things like they did today, they gave up more points without Barkley with that team, without Barkley and without Sterling Shepard than they did with those guys. So I'm just trying to diagnose what's up with this defense. Like you had a great first drive. Quinn comes out right away and strips the ball. They have a good time. We got a good signing here with Quinn. But, from there, that was basically like the biggest outside. Well, yeah, because the Jackson interception didn't count. That was basically the biggest defensive highlight of the game. I mean,
yeah, it's perplexing why they're kind of struggling. I mean, one thing that I've noticed is just that front four has not been getting to the passer like we saw back in 2018. It doesn't seem like they can get there, and they had everybody healthy, so no reason not to. And I mean, like you said, early on they were able to get to them, but maybe some adjustments made by the Giants. Certainly it felt like they were kind of like the Bears in week 1 where they just started getting more and more confidence. And once they got their footing in that third quarter, it was like off to the races and they couldn't be stopped. And I just wonder if, this Bears team maybe needs to do a little bit more blitzing. Maybe Chuck Pagano has to try to bring more pressure and not allow these quarterbacks to sit as much. But I don't know exactly what it is either, because I like the adjustment that they made where they put Deion Bush in a lot of positions next to Roquan Smith instead of Danny Trevathan, and that speed became a little bit more of a factor. And, of course, Deion Bush got the interception on Jones. Right. But more so a slip by Evan Ingram. It was just Bush was in position and coverage that he could make a play on the football. So still, good job by him. And that was a good adjustment overall by Chuck Pagano. And again, I think Jalen Johnson played well. So did Kyle Fuller. It's not that the secondary played poorly. It just, when a quarterback just has a lot of time to throw, I mean, they're just going to have opportunities. And especially with Daniel Jones, you have to be somewhat concerned about him running. He's not a statue back there. So as a linebacker, you're kind of in a position of coverage as well as reacting to him coming out of the pocket. And he did a good job, I think, moving around to buy times. But he also was pretty accurate overall in throwing the football. They just, I don't know, either they're missing something or they're not bringing it the way that they have brought it before. And either Pagano has to make some adjustments or the players just have to make some adjustments as how they bring it. Part of it I heard in the pregame conversation was the lack of crowd noise affecting them and not giving them that juice. And Mac told them you have to BYOJ, bring your own juice as a player, kind of like what the Cubs are doing, how they're being talked about as too ruckus because they're treating it as like a college game. That's what you kind of need to bring in the defense. And I wonder all that energy early on and then maybe just kind of hit a flat period and the offense didn't back them up and it made it look a little bit worse than it was. But I guess the defense this time came through, at least in closing the door when you absolutely needed something.
Yeah, it looked, that last drive, it was just like, as a Bears fan, you look at sitting through that drive, it's just like, oh God, they're actually going to give up this score.
I really felt that for a second too.
Yeah, it was horrible, man. Like Scoob B was on Twitter, like, I'm really enjoying this Bears Giants game. I'm like, you the only one. Because the Bears fans, we wasn't enjoying it, and I'm sure the Giants fans weren't enjoying it. So I'm like,
Scoopy had his reporter side where he was looking for the storyline, not the Bears.
He was just looking straight down the line, I guess. I can't be that impartial during the Bears game. I'm sorry, but yeah, it was, you know, it's with the defense. I liked Roquan the way he played today. I think he had a couple nice plays on the edges and showed some good things there. And you know, Mac had a couple. He had a couple of late rushes that were key. I think picked the team back up when they really lost that juice, like you said. And I wonder how that's going to be affecting teams in general, how it's affecting the Bears, because it's like you could argue maybe last week it helped the Bears get back into the game with Detroit, maybe that they didn't have to worry about a raucous Detroit crowd that was helping their team, you know, deal with having a lead. And the Bears were on the flip side this week, was where they didn't have their home crowd sort of charging them up, keeping them going after getting the lead. So you never know. But I think to keep it on the field, I included a clip from the NBC Sports Chicago post-game show in your fourth and goals this week and your post online. And I think in that clip, I think they was talking a bit about Snacks Harrison and interest that the defensive tackle that he's had in the playing for the Bears or his representatives, whatever. And the Bears are, reportedly are sort of like playing them off. And I'm like, okay, without Goldman coming back, it's like, maybe y'all do need someone to get in that middle and start maybe pressuring more from right up the middle and make things a little easier maybe on the edges to get pressure and do, like, I don't know, maybe they just need some infusion or something. And I don't know why the Bears are sort of playing that off.
Yeah, in terms of Snack Harrison, if he was interested, I think the Bears should be somewhat interested too, because at least try him out. He would be a perfect fit at that nose tackle, and we know how Eddie Goldman's an unheralded superstar, if you will, on this defense because of a lot of the dirty work he does, and it cleans off a lot of other guys. So if you could bring that in, that would be big time. In terms of them getting better, I think that they can, because I think Jalen Johnson is going to be a much better player towards the end of the season than he is right now. Okay. So that will be a little bit of a boost. Roquan Smith, I mean, I'm glad you brought him up. I believe he led the team in tackles last week, and he had a good game this week. That's 2 really good games in a row. I wonder if maybe that is also a transition where we've seen consistency now out of him. If he can get that going a little bit further, then that confidence. And I'd love to see them use him as a blitzer a little bit, because he can really do that well, and he creates some turnovers as well. So he's an unheralded player and obviously a great pass coverage linebacker, their best inside linebacker really overall. maybe it's just, it's kind of a crappy excuse, if you will, but maybe it's just the lack of training camp and preseason. I mean, does this defense maybe look completely different in a positive way starting in October after 3-4 weeks getting it down?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get into that theme of discussion with our guest now, Eric Edholm from Yahoo Sports, NFL reporter, and just a great guy overall. Has been a long time guest with D and Davis, and glad to have you on here, man. Our first outside guest with our Sunday night special here recap. And how you doing, man? First off,
I'm doing great,
Eric.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on. It was a tough day to watch with all the injuries, no doubt about it. But some good football to fall back on. Hopefully, a lot of those guys can get well and get back out there.
Yeah, I want to get into that, but me and Ryan have just been talking first off about the Bears game, and if you want to give your thoughts on that overall, another close one, another sweater.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mitch is helping keep some of the cardiologists in the Chicagoland area in business, doing all right. Good little boost here, but I mean, you take 2-0, right? And you guys sort of use the preseason theme, right? I mean, I talked to a coach in August who said, we may not know who we are until week 5. You know what I mean? Like in a normal year, you sort of have an idea what you got, barring a big change or an injury. So I would put the Bears in that category. Defense is showing up when it has to. Run game looks better than it did last year. Mitch has had 3 hot quarters, and it's, I don't know, as hot as I can remember him playing at any point.
Right, that's about as much as you could ask from him, right?
Right. I mean, I'm not complaining if I'm Chicago, but at least both those picks were on the receiver's hands. Like, could they have been better throws? Yeah, but like, we're getting there, man. Just taking steps, I guess. So it's been passable so far.
I was just thinking today, like, I don't know how this could have happened, between if there was any sort of negotiation that may have even aired to this way. But I really think they should have tried maybe, because every other league they've been willing to doctor with their seasons. I really think the NFL should have tried maybe a 14-game season with 2 preseason games. And I don't know if there was anywhere within the realm of reality, but just get off of that point. What do you think about, like you said, the coach? You just talked to guys say it's really going to take probably about 4 or 5 weeks for teams to get someplace good. But, what do you think that's having a specific impact on the way that the game has been played in the first 2 weeks, including this rash of injury? There was a lot of injuries today to big name players.
Right. And, as somebody else reminded me this summer, I was writing a story about what the effects of COVID might be on the season. And this was still when we were guessing whether there'd be fans or not. I mean, we didn't know at this point when I wrote the story. And somebody mentioned the injury factor and went back to 2011, the lockout year when we didn't have any OTAs. We ended up having preseason, but the lack of maybe full sort of off-season training and conditioning, a lot of that is conditioning stuff they do, caused a rash of Achilles injuries that season. There were, higher than normal ACL injuries, other kind of fluky things like that. So, perhaps there's going to be a COVID effect. Obviously, it's, the fact that we didn't have this time to kind of build up. And you see some coaches really trying to, sort of take care of some of their veterans, like, the Patriots with Edholm, or, watch their snaps a little bit. And so there's a little bit of that going on, but you got to win games too. It's hard, so I think there's definitely been effect for the new quarterbacks, new head coaches, and the teams like the Ravens obviously are just still rolling because they did what they did last year.
But I want let me ask that right quick. I want to ask what you thought were the most impactful injuries, but it's still kind of early for that. We got to see what the diagnosis are. I mean, Barkley, if he gets an ACL, that's just really bad. Like,
Yep.
If that's really his ACL that he did today. But you mentioned the Ravens, man. The Ravens they like I say, they just picking up right where they left off from last year. And on the other hand, you have a team like the Niners, which went to the Super Bowl, but half of their team is on the disabled list now. It's like, what do you think makes a difference between that type of transition into this year and the type of that the Ravens has had?
Right. I mean, the 49ers, just sort of talking to some people around the team this summer, like it felt like, they weren't going to, in their minds, they weren't going to be that Super Bowl hangover team. They said that even with all the distractions, even, after blowing a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter of the biggest game, that this was a pretty focused operation. The only thing really that could derail it was Jimmy G getting hurt, Nick Bosa getting hurt, Raheem Mostert getting hurt. And guess what happened today? I mean, it was a crazy rash of injuries. They'd already been hit at receiver. I mean, we know how much – I still say Deebo Samuel needed like 20 touches in the Super Bowl. He was on fire that night. They got him involved in the run game. He's a big part of what they do. So they've really gotten hit at receiver. Kittle goes down. It's just gutted them, man. I mean, it's really, really tough. Bosa, though, I mean, as great as Kittle is, as important as a starting quarterback is, in my mind, if you lose Joey Bosa for the season, as is expected, we hope maybe there's a miracle here, but I don't see a good season. I think he's that important to what they do defensively, one of the few non-quarterbacks who can dramatically impact a win total for a season.
So if you were to pick an injury, at the moment that could be the most impactful, you would say Bosa?
I think that's it. Yeah. I mean, there's only a handful of guys on defense, maybe Stephon Gilmore for the Patriots or TJ Watt for the Steelers. There's a few guys that make that big of a difference, even with good players around them, that I would really say that for. But, back to your question about the Ravens too earlier. I mean, nobody's talking about them. I mean, they're playing great football. They're running the ball like crazy. Lamar's dialed in as ever. It's like they're a secondary story now. They were the hit last year early. It's almost like we're just sort of bored with them now. I love what they're doing.
Yeah, well, they're playing the Chiefs next week, so that's going to be a big hyped up game. And the Chiefs themselves, had a pretty tough game today with the Chargers. That wound up being an interesting game because you had Herbert come into the game. They went with Taylor at the beginning of the season last week. But now Herbert Hebert, or whatever you say, comes in, and he was pretty good. And it had me wonder, like they diagnosed, it was a diagnosis of a chest injury for Taylor. I was wondering if somebody hit him with a bag of oranges or something for the game. Well, maybe they tried to get him out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't heard all the details. Apparently, he went to the hospital because they were calling it then kind of a chest pain. So. It's a scary thing, right? Is it something cardiac that you have to worry about? Is it a COVID thing? Is it something else? I mean, not the kind of thing you normally would feel during warm-ups. So scary, and I hope everything's fine. I think it will be.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Herbert came in. I'll tell you what, I do a lot of draft stuff for Yahoo. I've been tough on him. I liked him. I wanted to love him. Never got me to that love phase as a prospect, but he clearly had all the ability in the world. Big kid, tough, underrated toughness. He showed that a few times today. But just the kind of hose that can spray it anywhere, and he's athletic, and he showed some poise today. The interception was clearly a rookie mistake and one he's going to be playing through his head all week. He had a first down he could pick up with his legs. He spins back, throws against his body, and you're like, no, dude, don't. And he let it go, and you just knew it was going to get picked. I mean, it's the kind of play the Chiefs make. So really, other than that throw, and other than them getting pretty conservative down the stretch, I thought he played a whale of a ball game. And this was a grinded out kind of game for the Chiefs. They don't have a lot of them, but today that's what it was. Do
you think it's meaningful at all that we see the Chiefs have a competitive game at this point? Like, the Texans didn't really challenge them that much, but to see the Chargers give them some run, do you think that's meaningful at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like seeing teams get tested in ways that they haven't really been tested recently. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to win without your fastball, right? I mean, that's the kind of thing where, they lost to the Colts last year and Pat got hurt. Everybody thought, oh God, what's going to happen? Even with Mahomes, it wasn't always gorgeous. They had a game against the Chargers last year. I think they won 21-17 or 24-17 or something. So
Yeah.
This team in particular, I mean, the Chargers, Gus Bradley, that defense, he's seen them enough. He knows some tricks he can throw against them. Anthony Lynn's a good coach. And they did, sort of just enough offensively to give them a lead. But yeah, I wouldn't look too hard into this one as far as, are the Chiefs losing a little of their luster. I thought they showed some grit today.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But yeah, definitely next Monday it looks like that's going to be a big game. Ravens and Chiefs, so that's going to be fun. But Ryan, man, I want you to jump back in, man. Let's take it back to the north. What about those Packers, man? The Packers looking tough, man. I was just thinking about last week, man, with the Bears. We got to see Detroit, and the division played each other last week. So we got to see Detroit, and on the other side, Minnesota played Green Bay, and Minnesota didn't really show much, and they looked even worse today. But Green Bay looks like they're ready to play this year, man. What you think?
Yeah, real quick with Minnesota, I kind of felt that they would struggle just with all the veterans that they lost and bringing in that like half of the draft class with all the picks that they had this past draft. It's going to probably take them some time, I think, to really get going. And even though Mike Zimmer's a great coach, it's just without the preseason, abbreviated training camp, it's everything we've been talking about. It's probably going to take some time for them to get up and going. As for the Packers, I mean, that was the Matt LaFleur system at its best right there, right? Aaron Jones is a receiver, runner. Aaron Rodgers wasn't necessarily spectacular, but he was still pretty good, and he was doing everything that Aaron Rodgers usually does, gets touchdown passes and yards. And with that combination and solid defense, and of course, the Lions hurt themselves with in their own zone interception. So not surprising. I think the Packers are the most solid team in the division, probably the best team, and they really don't have a ton of weaknesses. We'll just see if later on down the road against some of the better competition they can handle it, like when they play, I believe, the Saints this weekend.
Hey, Eric, for a while, it was like with that stretch bridging McCarthy and LaFleur, it seemed like there was so much that was left up to Rodgers to do himself. But now it seems like he has that team that he could fade back a little bit and just let Jones control things. Or he has some receivers again now that he could rely on, and now they have a defense that's built back up some.
Yeah, the defensive improvement has been clear. They really have three options in the backfield. Jamal Williams is right now holding off A.J. Dillon for that number 2 role. And, of course, Aaron Jones, just the touchdown maker. I mean, the guy just gets in the end zone. It's incredible. Like, he had 19, I think, last year and, 3 in this game, if I'm not mistaken. So the one thing that worries me, guys, is that they've had to sort of play a little bit of musical chairs on that offensive line, which is a strength, and it is. But, 1 or 2 more injuries there, I'm a little worried. Same thing with receiver. Devontae gets banged up today. Equanimous is, I think, on the short-term IR. I don't know if Valdez-Scantling left the game and came back. I'm not sure about that. But, they were kind of dropping like flies a little bit. So that's the one thing that worried me. But, hey, when you got Big Bob Tonyan to go up and get him at tight end, you're all right. Who needs receivers, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you say they got the Saints coming up on Ryan, so that's going to be another pretty a potential matchup of contenders there. If you look at the Saints division, we don't see Saints themselves till tomorrow, but let's look at the TB and those Tampa Bay Bucks. He gets back on the horse a little bit today. A better performance. He's still not producing big time, and I don't know if you're going to see that old Tom Brady production, but he's got enough around him again where he could sort of play that sort of veteran game where he'll pick and choose his spots and he'll hit you when he can hit you. And they didn't play a great team today, but they looked a lot better this week than they did last week.
Yeah, I bet you Tom's going to Bruce saying, hey, let's make Leonard Fournette go over 100 yards every week and then let me take care of the rest, because that's a winning formula with that team and that defense. And I don't know either with Tom. I think he's going to get a little bit better as he gets more and more comfortable with everything around him. But, with his age, I just don't know. Does it ever just kind of drop off enough where it's significant, where he can't really perform at a superstar type level, and that's what they need to get over the hump potentially?
Eric, that was a little, we're going to make stories all year about the littlest stuff in Tampa Bay. But, there was the story this week was sort of coming up about Arians having some comments and stuff. Do you think that was overblown, or was that the type of thing that we're just going to have to get used to? It was seen to me that like Arians and Brady may try to test each other in different ways throughout this season.
Creative tension. I love it. You two quarterbacks. I mean, Bruce is a quarterback back in his day and a quarterback guru, and they probably see things differently. And I think on some level, Brady thought, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Bruce and I are going to butt heads. But, I remember a former Patriot player describing what it was like the first time that he saw Belichick kind of tear into Brady in front of the team. They had just won the Super Bowl, and, it was like the year after, I think. And he said it was like dead silence in the room because here's this guy who's, cool as a cucumber and, the Tommy boy and all that. And Belichick ripped into him in a meeting. It wasn't public like we heard with Bruce and Tom, but, what toughened Brady up over the years, and in part, he already was tough, was Belichick holding him to an impossibly high standard. So Tom's faced criticism. On some level, do I think he wanted to go somewhere where he could maybe, massage things and manipulate them to the way he wanted them? Maybe. But his options were limited. And I think he realized the potential of how good it could be with Godwin and Evans and Arians and Byron Leftwich and the tight ends. And, Gronk's there now. He hasn't done much. But he knew that if I can put up a little something or other, we might be able to do something here. But I'm with you, Ryan. We never seen a 43-year-old quarterback do that for a whole season. We haven't. So at some point, there's going to be the law of diminishing returns kicks in.
What do you think the ceiling is for that team?
I mean, in that division, we're talking about Panthers are, one of those plucky fourth place teams. They're nothing to worry about. Falcons obviously have gotten off to a terrible start. Can they be better than Saints? Or do you take advantage of the extra playoff spot this year? Some 8 team might get in. It's not going to be a shock if that happens. So I would say their peak would be like 10-6, but I think they have a floor that's lower than some people want to admit.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree. I was just wondering, like, coming to the season, like, just how the things would play out. But we've had one, like I said, we had one good game, one bad so-so game, bad game, and 10-6. I think they should be a winning team. Like it would be hard for me with that talent that they got to see them be a losing team. But are they going to be a championship level team? They said, I don't know, 43-year-old quarterback, like you say.
Right. And a young defense. Like, they gave up 450 yards or something today to Carolina.
Yeah.
This is a young defense going to have some games where they're good but not great or average, So there's some things that have to be figured out.
Definitely. And, you mentioned Atlanta. That's the Bears' next opponent. And they just find new ways to lose. And, like, I don't know what do you make of that team? Like, is there ever going to reach a point where that stuff is really going to, get back on the coaching staff on, and they've given up some of the worst leads in recent memory.
Oh, yeah.
The worst come from behind wins in recent memory, and Dallas was just looked dead in the water, and I'm sure they feel like they could win the Super Bowl again down there after that second half. But what do you take from that game with Atlanta? As far as Dan Quinn and just like I said, what can that team do next?
Right. I mean, Dan Quinn saved his job with how they played down the stretch last year. They got off to the 1-6 start or whatever it was. It was 1-7 maybe. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think they got 1-7. I think, and then they beat the
really bad
Panthers. I mean, they got hot, and even the couple of games they lost down the stretch, they were competitive. They were playing harder than their opponents. So it was really almost shocking that he didn't get fired during the bye last year. And then it was also even more shocking that he was able to win, keep his job. And coming into this year, there were people kind of just quietly saying, like, keep an eye on the Falcons. Like they're one of those teams that may sneak in out of nowhere. But, I mean, I don't know. It's funny because when I watch them, I don't feel like I'm watching a team that, is just making mental errors left and right. But today you see stuff like that and you think they're not good defensively. They haven't stopped anybody. I mean, the special teams there on the onside kick was terrible. So at some point they've got to figure those things out and pretty fast.
So Ryan, maybe they're a bit more off kilter than the Bears even. So maybe 3-0 is not that out of reach. But they do have Matt Ryan, and he worries me against what I've seen the first 2 weeks. Even the backfield, the defensive backfield is, they haven't been embarrassing or bad really, but. Like I said, Ryan is a professional quarterback, Matt Ryan, and if he gets going, we saw what Daniel Jones was able to do, able to at least compete today. I'm worried about what Matt Ryan could do over the course of a game next week.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan, like you were saying, Eric, last year went late to San Francisco and gave them an L. That was very surprising.
Right.
That offense could definitely give this Bears defense a ton of problems this Sunday. But, I mean, if you're Matt Nagy and Mitch Trubisky, you should be licking your chops. You should be thinking, man, like we can really do some damage against this defense that hasn't done anything. And even though Dan Quinn is a defensive coach, it hasn't translated for them and his defenses. And usually it's a bunch of injuries, but I don't even think the injury bug has hit them so hard defensively this year. So I don't know exactly which Falcon team you're going to get. It just seems like it's week to week almost.
Mm-hmm. If we're headed to the fourth quarter on Sunday night game, I'll try to give you guys some time to finish up that game by yourselves. But it's looking pretty good. It looked for a second, a little while that Seattle was going to start to pull away. But Cam has engineered another drive in there. Well, 28-24, I believe, right now. They just
23. I think 23? They went for 2.
They went for 2 and missed. That's what I just saw out of the corner of my eye. Yeah.
Okay. But a pretty good game here. Of course, known commodities: Russell Wilson, Cam Newton. Going back to last week, Eric, what did you think? What do you think about Cam and his start in New England?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's such a different style from what we've seen in New England for years. But Josh McDaniels has earned a reputation as a good, as a great offensive mind in this league because, they went 11-4 with Matt Castle the year Tom Brady got hurt. They switched to Jimmy Garoppolo for the suspension. They were planning on 4 games. Then he gets hurt. Jacoby Brissett comes in. They win all those games. It's like their ability to adapt has been pretty impressive. And even as Brady's game has changed over the years, they've always been a productive offense. Like last year, Brady threw for 4,000 yards with that offense. They were terrible to watch. After the 8-0 start, after the Ravens took the wind out of them, and they just were uncomfortable team to watch. And, you know, they'd win with defense. They'd win with special teams. They'd, you know, run the ball a little bit. And Brady had hit Edholm for 8 catches for 78 yards or whatever, you know. And now Cam has taken this thing and kind of run with it so far. And he still doesn't have much help on the outside, though. I mean, Edelman's great. N'Keal Harry's sort of coming along. But, man, they're lacking weapons. You know, Demir Bird got the first 2 passes tonight. It just, you know, nothing against Demir Bird, right? Yeah, he used to play with Cam for a minute in Carolina, I think. So,
okay, it
just, you know, they're a couple playmakers short, I think, of. I mean, him having to carry them on his back every week. That's my worry, I guess.
And you look at all those guys who have, you know, chose not to play this year on defense and stuff, or otherwise injured or whatever. It's, you know, you wonder what type of magic they're going to do in New England this year. And, you know, Buffalo, they're gaining confidence up there. You know, what type of race do you think that's going to be in the East?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be great. I mean, obviously the Buffalo Bills showed last year they can hang with the Patriots. They've got a quarterback who's tough to defend. I don't know if people like Josh Allen, but, you know, like Cam Newton, like when you're that big and agile and you have that big an arm like he was, you know, early in his career, it's hard to decide how to play that, right? I mean, do you go big and worry about Josh Allen, the runner, or do you know, you sit back and play small? You know, I mean, it's hard to do and try to cover all that ground, right, in the secondary. Now they have Stephon Diggs and John Brown and a lot of quick receivers. So tough team to defend. The backfield needs to help a little more. You know, offensive line's been a little iffy here and there. Defense has been good. They're a tough team, though. I mean, I like the Bills and what they've done. It's just I'd like to see Singletary and Zach Moss kind of get that load off of Josh Allen running the football as much as he sometimes can. He looked good, though, today.
Okay. Yeah, he did. He did. I saw, like, no other, not even Kelly for that franchise has had a 400-yard game, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. I saw that.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's great for him, man, because you know, you don't think of him at all as a big production guy with his arm, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, if he's improving like that, and like you say, they got some weapons. I mean, I like Singletary myself coming out of school, and you know, Diggs is just a guy who he could just really go off. So,
yep.
You know, that could be fun, man, to see how they'll try to battle with New England and see if New England's up for defending that division again. But yeah, just you know, looking at the AFC overall, you know, let's see, you got the Chiefs, you got you got Baltimore. Is there anybody else who looking, you know, Ryan, I remember we talking before the season with Ken, you know, he liked Pittsburgh a bit, you know, if Pittsburgh's come out with a couple wins early. So, you know, you think that's another contender out there potentially?
Oh, yeah, I think Pittsburgh could definitely be a contender if Big Ben is back to his old self, or at least that old level of being an efficient passer, and so far he's been for the first couple weeks. The defense, I don't think, played great today against Denver, but that's a pretty good collection of defenders that they have in Pittsburgh, and they should be pretty solid, and they ran the ball effectively and really well, and when the Steelers are running the ball well, playing great D with Big Ben, that's always a really great recipe for what they can do moving forward. It's going to be interesting. I like the Bills a lot, too. I mean, just to piggyback everything you guys are saying, I mean, what Sean McDermott has done a great job with that defense. If Josh Allen really is turning a corner, that's a watch out for sure.
Okay. Eric, anybody else in the AFC that's catch your eye so far?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the team whose style is going to just mess some people up is Tennessee's, right? The power run game, you know, kind of the misdirect passing game, play action, stuff like that. I mean, you know, they're kind of hard to prepare for, and defensively they get after it. I mean, they're 2-0 right now. They have the same number of touchdowns as their opponent. You know, they're going to win a lot of ugly games, but that's okay. We saw in the playoffs that ugly can look pretty good too. You know what I mean? So there's something about that team. I don't know that they have special high-level talent, but they've got a lot of depth. I feel like they're just one of those – Mike Vrabel's one of those guys who's going to get them ready most weeks and, maybe take the Belichick coaching tree, which has a pretty bad rap overall, in a different direction. And he was never an assistant for Belichick, but he's sort of lumped as like a offshoot, I guess. And you saw what he did to Belichick in the playoffs, so he's a good young coach.
Yeah, that definitely. I slept on Tennessee a little bit. I gave Houston too much credit, but I thought Houston was going to be a little better. But I didn't see. I thought, of course they lost Hopkins, and that's probably the last team I want to get into. I'll get to Arizona after this, but Hopkins, they lost him, of course. I thought they had enough talent still retained, but they just, what did you think about their performance today against? I didn't know. We didn't show it here in Chicago, but what did you think about the performance against Baltimore today? Like, was it just an performance?
It was tough. They really couldn't stop the run. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, J.J. Watt had a few plays early. McKinney made a nice play early, but it was like, once the offense stalled a few times, one of them was a fumble after a catch. One of them was an interception that was an incredible play. The offense was fine, but it was really the fact that Baltimore just ran it down their throats today. So I didn't watch the whole thing, but yeah, like you, I mean, I sort of felt like somehow they always end up with like 10 or 11 wins,
Yes.
But yeah, Hopkins, seeing what he's doing for the Cardinals, clear they missed that dude, and I'll still never get that trade. I'll never understand it. It won't make any sense to me.
But Arizona is going to make it work. They've extended them smartly. They go out and beat the Washington football team today, and it's just this is my last team I want to go into. Like, how dangerous do you think that Arizona team can be? They're in a division, of course, with Seattle, and we talked about the 49ers issues. The Rams actually are looking like they're revived a little bit, but Arizona, that's at least going to be a fun team to watch, if anything.
I think so. I mean, Kyler alone makes them fun. Then you throw in Hopkins and everything he can do. They're getting the other guys involved too. I mean, Kirk had a long catch today. Andy Isabella had a long catch. Kenyon Drake's running the ball pretty well. Defensively this week they look better. It got a little sloppy in the second half, but they're a young team who's coming along. I mean, they still have some warts, but with Kyler, we saw the jump that Lamar Jackson made year 1 to year 2. I mean, I picked Kyler as my sort of long shot MVP pick this year. I just figured if there's a guy who can do it with, the running ability, people love that dual threat quarterback these days. It's exciting football. It's what we used to never see in the NFL, or very seldom. Now it's a great element of the game, and he's that next guy. So I like their chances, even if they're still figuring some things out.
Definitely. And you want to say something, Brian?
Yeah, I'm just basically what Eric was saying. I think as far as that defense can carry them, really, I mean, they're going to put up points and they're going to put up yards. And what kind of defense can you do against Kyler Murray when he's hitting guys downfield and then he can run like that? I mean, there's no defense that's going to be very prepared for that. But Seattle, with Russell Wilson, the best deep ball thrower in the league, it just might not be their year to win the division.
Yeah. There's still some growing pains they may have to go through, but you talk about teams that got some work to do. I want to leave. Let's dump on some teams before we leave. There's like let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm looking at 0-2 teams. And
I thought you were counting Jets first downs or something like
that. You may be giving away your answer there,
1,
but I want
2, 3. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's about right. Yeah.
Have a 9 0-2 teams. We know neither team who's going to play on Monday night is going to be 0-2. But out of the 9, there's like 9-0-2 teams, 6 in the NFC. Just that was the first 6 I counted off. But who do you think is in the worst situation right now, Eric? Like, who do you think is really like who's really counting on Lawrence right now?
I mean, doesn't it have to be the Jets right now? I mean, Carolina's playing tough, right? Atlanta, you put them in a different category because it was like, look, we know they're not terrible. They're just having an awful start. Philly hasn't looked good, but
yeah,
you know who's like Minnesota. I mean, they're always let's not assume they're going to go 4-12, but Ryan, you were talking about earlier. It's that defense still coming together, man. The young secondary. Cousins was awful today. They don't have that established guy yet at receiver. Justin Jefferson's coming along. I don't know, man. I mean, they're not as bad as the Jets, clearly. They're going to be a much better football team, but their record may not be outstanding this year.
Man, if they finish worse than the Bears and
it's crazy, right?
Detroit, that'll be surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan,
I did think the Bengals, even though Joe Burrow's looking good, I don't think anything else looks good around him right now. And he's just going to be potentially beat up by that terrible offensive line that they have. And I don't know if that defense can really stop anybody. Certainly, Jets is my worst, but the Bengals, I think, deserve some love for being a pretty bad team. And even maybe throwing the Giants, too. New York's got to be just suffering right now.
It's bad.
I like Burrow, but have him throw 61 times in a second start. Like, they're really dependent on him. Like, that's not.
I thought it was like the Mike D'Antoni of football coaching or something.
He's 7 seconds or less. Like, nigga, I don't know, man. But I like Burrow, though, man. He might be that guy, but like you say, they got to get a lot around him, man.
And their main guy, AJ Green, he has gotten off to a really slow start this year.
He started practicing like 2-3 days before the opener, and I watched that whole first game. He's still getting his sea legs under him. He doesn't have that explosiveness, and then have to play 4 days after that. It's a tough start to the year for Green. I'm not going to give up on him yet, but I get it. He has not looked good so far, and Joe's trying to get him the ball. He knows that he's his best receiver. Tyler Boyd dropped a touchdown. There's those that should be a team strength, and it hasn't quite been that good a thing yet.
How miserable would Cleveland have been, though, if they had lost that game? Man.
Yeah. You guys see that fan video? Somebody put together like 5 minutes of fan reaction after the game or whatever, and they had, I think, 6,000 fans of the game, and some guy came out and, it was great. Pat Browns win. All right. Next guy comes out. Yeah, that was a good win. All right, solid. Third guy comes out, and he just pauses. He said, beating the Bengals by 5 ain't that impressive. Everybody else is jacked up and blanket of reason. And I kind of sided with that guy on it. I was like, it was a good win, but, it's the Bengals,
Yeah, there's always one fan. We talked about it before you came on. For us, it's Tony Gill. He said the Bears might as well be 0-2.
That's like my father-in-law. He's like, just wait till they blow it next week. Go ahead and win for a day. My gosh.
Yeah, but that was. You talk about the fans right quick before we go. The fans, you have fans there. It's like they're slowly trying to open it up. They have about 21,000 down in Dallas.
Yep.
There's been some talk here in Chicago about letting some fans in. How by the end of the year are we just going to like have a cough for all with all these stadiums? A sneeze fest at all these stadiums and
designated sneezing areas like where you smoke.
Yeah, I mean, right. I'm expecting Super Bowl if you're going to pay, $1,700 for a ticket or whatever for face value. You better have your own little pod. The air being cleansed out somehow. No, there's no way to obstruct it.
Gonna be looking like the Jetsons and them little space things they have.
Here's your hazmat suit.
I mean, hey, some people would wear a lot crazier thing than that to get to a Super Bowl. So, yeah, I don't know. They want to have fans at the Super Bowl this year. That's all I know. I mean, all they've said is we're hoping for fans of the Super Bowl. I think obviously local laws apply, but they're slowly inching up, trying to figure out a way to make it happen, come January, February.
Where's the Super Bowl this year?
Tampa.
Well, Florida, I mean, they already letting it go in Florida. So
Oh yeah, they COVID's ripped through that whole state already. We're good.
Yeah. Well, man, thanks a lot, Eric, man. I'm so glad to have you on, man. And hopefully we'll do this again before the end of the year, man. You're just great. And great talk. And great guy to follow on social media with your football stuff. And let people know how to follow you.
I don't know. This is risky stuff. My Twitter gets a little weird on game day, but it's Eric with a C _ Edholm, EDHOLM, Yahoo Sports. Do a lot of draft stuff, and thank you guys. I really appreciate you letting me come on and babble for a bit. Yeah,
man, definitely. And Eric, Ryan, of course, weareregalradio.com. You can read his stuff, 4th and Goals, previewing the games, 3 and out. Recapping them. We got our podcast versions that we're doing also every week of 3 and out podcast version. Our videos on YouTube, War Media. You can search us on all our platforms. War Media, WARR Media. Ryan, anything else you want to say? Any you want to give out your social stuff?
You can follow me at Ryan B. Ski, and let's pray for the Bears. Let's get off to 3-0. How about that?
Yeah, it's like say better. It's better than some parallel universe. They are 0-2 again. So at least our universe is getting a good storyline so far.
And at least Matt Nagy could tie Mark Trestman for first 2-0 start in quite a long time.
Right, 2013, man. Last time it happened. And of course that was a distinguished continuation to that Trestman era. So you never know these things, man. But Nagy's getting wins, and we're happy for another week in Chicago. So we'll keep riding with that. So thank you, fellas, once again. Enjoy the rest of this game tonight and the rest of the season. And back to football, y'all.
Great talking with you guys.
All right. We're out, man. Yeah.
Enjoy your evening.
Yeah, definitely. That David show. Pitch the show, man. Plug the show, I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Check out That's Davis. We'll be dropping this Wednesday. Looking still to confirm a guest, but we've got an idea. Hopefully it will revolve around the Maya Moore situation, if you're familiar with the WNBA, and her recent wedding, her marriage to a wrongly convicted inmate. So we wanted to get the backstory.
Very inspirational love story there.
Certainly something we'll get into, and we'll obviously recap football, we'll recap the Bears. We'll have, how'd you put it, Kyle? Sports.
Yeah, sports.
We got NBA. I mean, baseball. We got Sox Cubs going to the playoffs any day now. Man, it's
stuff to talk about.
If the Bears could just get to a good level, I think we'd be riding high here in Chicago right now.
Really, and it'd be an unprecedented fall for real, man. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we talk about how rare it is to get all the majors together. How about the Cubs-White Sox World Series and then the Bears getting to like 8-0 or something? How about doing something like that?
Right, and it'll make sense too that if the Cubs and Sox finally play a World Series and it's in freaking Arlington, Texas.
Ugh. Well, hey. I know as a Cubs fan, even though we won in 2016, I would be so grateful to have an empty stadium World Series in Texas.
Yeah.
And for the Sox, last time you played in a World Series, it wasn't too bad in Texas.
No. Yeah, they actually won it all in Texas. So, yeah, there's some ties there. We'll see, man. But it's going to be fun, man. Looking forward to seeing when you and Kid get cooked up.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Check us out Wednesday morning, then check out Flippin' Friends, which will be dropping tomorrow morning as well.
Definitely. All right, man. Peace out, Ryan, man. Have a good one.
You too, man. Talk to you later.
All right.